music. There's this subtle hurt that stays hushed. It doesn't erupt in outbursts or sobs. Instead, it emerges in your over-efforts, in those sleepless nights where you relive dialogues, questioning if you misspoke, in the forced chuckles that echo a bit too brightly, the grins held just a touch too long, all in the hope that somebody will truly notice you at last. It's the longing to be desired, and it originates sooner than many acknowledge. As a kid, affection isn't a concept you grasp, it's an essence you absorb. The warmth in your mom's tone during chats, the gaze from your dad when you present him with your creation. You're unaware of what focus means, yet your very being senses the sting of being overlooked. That's the origin tale for so many of us. So, not amid grown-up woes or romantic shattering, but in those tiny, hushed instances where we discover that care wasn't assured. Music. Perhaps you were the child forced to strive for it, achieve top marks, act courteous, amuse the crowd, maintain harmony. You craved more than affection. You had to prove yourself worthy. And that's when a quiet shift occurs deep within the soul. Once care turns contingent, notice becomes vital air. You gauge your value through another's gaze. Even as an adult, that ingrained pattern lingers. Observe it in how grown folks pursue approval, much like youngsters displaying artwork pleading, quote zero. New context, identical plea. Am I significant to you? The drive to feel desired isn't frailty. It's among humanity's most ancient drives. Evolutionary science backs this up. Inclusion and welcome served as lifelines. Being valued ensured tribal bonds and safeguards. Dismissal led to solitude, and solitude spelled peril. Our neural pathways still hold that memory. That's why disregard can wound like bodily injury, quite literally. Imaging studies reveal that social dismissal fires the identical brain areas handling physical discomfort. So when you claim it stung, you're not exaggerating. You're voicing a tangible biological truth. Yet at some point, this adaptive urge morphed into an emotional trade system. We traded fragments of our essence for visibility. We twisted our true selves to match others' expectations. It's understated. You may not spot it in the act. You consent to views you reject. You giggle at punchlines that flop. You declare all's well when it's not, and you label it compassion or wisdom or harmony-keeping. But at core, it's that inner kid murmuring, if I keep them content, perhaps they won't abandon me. And honestly, that murmur doesn't fade with age. You merely learn to refine it. You term it drive. You term it devotion. You term it reliability. But truly, you're pursuing that ancient sense of necessity. In every life, there's an instant when you grasp you've been acting for affection. You reflect and spot all those efforts to mend yourself in hopes of selection. You recall the hush after a too open message. You recall lingering in a crowded space, yet feeling unseen regardless. That's the realization. You've pursued reflections, not bonds. For desire and comprehension differ. Most opt for the former since it's simpler to obtain. We assume if another's drawn to us, they perceive us, yet often they merely view the self that gratifies them, and we confuse that focus for devotion. We've all experienced it. You encounter another, and vitality surges anew. As if your hidden facets are at last unveiled, but with time, you see they didn't cherish your essence. They cherished how you mirrored their cravings. You supplied what soothed their own desire, its shared void posing as unity. And no one's to blame. We all harbor that identical yearning to count, to be selected, to suffice. Some seek it via bonds, others via triumphs, still others via aid to kin. Yet the source remains identical. We yearn for someone to regard us and affirm, no need for deeds, you already count. But most never receive that assurance, not from guardians, not from mentors, not from society. Thus, we shaped our existences striving to merit a statement that ought to have been absolute. At times, it appears in the tiniest details. How your spirits hinge on a response, how quietude seems like penalty, how praise can transform your entire outlook. You deem yourself overly tender. But no, you're reacting to that early emotional framework from youth. When tiny, each nod signaled security, each snub signaled threat. So you mastered interpreting expressions like guides. You examined pitch, moment, vibe. You discerned when to voice and when to hush. That's effective endurance, and countless never transcend it. Experts in the mind frequently term this attachment imprinting. It's how those initial emotional encounters form hidden templates that influence our connections to romance, career, and self-image. If affection was something you had to strive for during childhood, chances are you'll continue striving for it in adulthood, even without any demands. This explains why folks linger in exhausting partnerships. It accounts for why individuals push themselves to exhaustion merely for recognition. It clarifies why countless people confuse notice with true care. Deep down, we're not after celebrity status, we're not seeking mere approval. What we crave is that comforting embrace from our early years, the sensation that another person truly perceives us and remains by our side. Yet, this is where complexity arises. Once you pursue that sensation from outside sources, it slips from your grasp. Your inner calm hinges on others' perceptions of you. And that's the most precarious kind of joy. Picture clutching a balloon stuffed with your value, but another person controls the tether. Your well-being depends entirely on their choice to grip it. This occurs when your self-esteem is loaned out rather than constructed from within. The irony lies in how the greater your desperation to be desired, the more you forfeit the qualities that render you desirable. You begin diminishing your authenticity. You conceal your views. You dim your vibrancy to spare others discomfort. Gradually, you lose touch with your former self, the one untainted by constant adaptation. No wonder phrases like, "I've lost sight of myself," emerge. Years of molding into others' expectations turn you into a mere assortment of responses, not a full individual. But here's the striking twist. The instant you cease angling for desire, you draw others in effortlessly. When you quit pursuing affirmation, you emanate it naturally. Folks sense when you're done seeking their endorsement. There's an undeniable strength in unassuming self-embrace. It lowers defenses. It fosters trust. In a realm brimming with actors, genuineness offers a sense of serenity. That said, releasing that craving is far from simple. You can't simply instruct your younger self. Quote, that inner child recalls the evenings of feeling overlooked. They recall the efforts to earn pride, only to witness indifference. Healing requires mending your core. It involves teaching yourself to provide what you once pleaded for. To murmur to that past version, Oshman quote by 5. As you embrace this practice, a remarkable shift unfolds. You no longer rely on others to bridge that void. Instead, your bonds evolve into mutual exchanges of affection, free from demonstrations. This subtle evolution often goes unspoken. It's the turning point where you halt the pursuit of value and begin living it. Reaching that place demands mindfulness. It calls for noticing those fleeting instances of yearning, like compulsively checking your device for a response, or twisting your reality to sidestep discord, or overextending yourself to retain proximity. These subtle signals hint at deeper scars. And remember, it's no disgrace to yearn for desire. It's profoundly human, a raw display of our common vulnerability. Even the most resilient, assured individuals harbor that identical, unspoken hope. To hold meaning for another, to linger in memory, to sense that your being alters lives. The key isn't suppressing that yearning, it's comprehending it. With insight, it no longer dominates you. You shed the fear of solitude. You abandon attempts to dazzle the indifferent. Bit by bit, equilibrium tilts. You start selecting those who reciprocate your choice. You shift from enacting to originating. You come to see that desirability isn't the aim. Wholeness is. As years accumulate, it dawns that few pursue triumph, prestige, or romance outright. They're seeking purpose, that subtle certainty that their life holds weight, that they resonate amid the immense, teeming, erratic expanse. And that's the essence of wanting to feel desired, a deep ache for evidence of visibility, proof that your essence touches another's world, softening it, securing it, or invigorating it. The issue emerges when you anchor your value to desirability, handing that evidence to others to manage. Yet humans, even the finest, waver. They become occupied. They wander in thought. They evolve. And in those shifts, your value might seem to vanish alongside. This is why so many blur the line between being desired and being cherished. Desirability strikes fast and fervent. It warms instantly, like a message illuminating your display or a ring just as hope wanes. But it's fleeting, an emotional pull that wanes as focus drifts. Cherishing, however, whispers softly. It endures unseen. Yet we rarely master patience for such depth, for society drills haste, validate swiftly, sustain intrigue, secure your spot in another's orbit, before they cast you aside. That's why we push forward relentlessly. We keep putting on the show. We cling tightly to the fantasy that if another person desires us fiercely enough, it'll mend all the old wounds. Yet, it never truly does. Since fleeting notice can't repair the damage from years of being overlooked, it merely pulls your focus away briefly. Psychology has a key insight. Unhealed pain tends to replay itself. You witness this pattern in folks who keep stumbling into the identical traps over and over. The identical aloof companions, the identical one-sided bonds where you pour everything out until you're drained dry. It's not a flaw in character. It's a loop. Your spirit persists in attempting to revise an ancient tale, yearning for a fresh conclusion this round. Perhaps that's the essence of maturing, coming to terms with the fact that nobody external can revise it on your behalf. You can't compel your folks to acknowledge the lengths you went to just to earn their praise. You can't compel that pal to finally recognize all the times you stepped up. You can't compel anyone to select you with the fervor you invest in them. All you can do is settle into the quiet void they've abandoned and refuse to let it shape your identity. That quiet weighs a ton, yet it's also hallowed ground, for within it, something truly transformative stirs. You begin grasping that the affection you hunted so long wasn't meant to originate from outsiders initially. It was destined to ignite within you, not in some fluffy motivational slogan sense, but in a raw, profoundly personal manner. Once you start regarding yourself as truly desirable, your whole inner world transforms. You cease pleading for recognition and begin earning it via genuine presence. You quit acting for affection and start emanating it effortlessly, since nothing draws others like a person who's reconciled with their own being. That's the mark of emotional growth, not feigning indifference, but investing care without self-sabotage. You crave bonds just as before, but their absence no longer shatters you. You still yearn to be cherished, but you won't twist your essence to match someone else's idea of worthy. This change feels understated, yet it's earth-shaking. It's the gap between whispering, quote 6, and declaring, quote 7, regardless of their response. The reality is, when you halt the pursuit of being chosen, you draw in those who genuinely perceive you, not lured by the act, but by the tranquility. They sense your unwavering calm and rely on it. When two souls connect from such a foundation, it's no longer about patching holes. It's about building purpose side by side. Even so, the urge to feel valued lingers on in subtler forms. It shifts from mere affirmation to meaningful exchange. From, or quote, 8 to quote 9. That's the elegant contradiction. The instant you abandon the hunt for desire, you start desiring others in its most untainted essence, not to fulfill or restore you, but purely because love, freed from desperation, turns boundless and giving. Of course, echoes of that former craving occasionally resurface. Perhaps you'll glance at your inbox and sense the sharp pang of being sidelined. Perhaps you'll enter a space and feel out of place. Perhaps you'll still long, just one time, for someone to gaze at you with the depth you've always offered. In those instances, extend compassion to yourself. For recovery isn't about wiping away such pangs, it's about comprehending them. That longing isn't frailty, it's a remnant. It's your core recalling the sting of invisibility and seeking assurance against future desertion. So offer that comfort. Halt. Inhale deeply. Affirm that you're beyond the kid awaiting validation. Now you meet your own eyes with assurance. You claim your own significance. And with that, existence shifts in feel. You tune into the subtle joys, the sun's gentle touch, the ease of a chat that asks nothing in return, the comfort of solitude that leaves you content. You come to see that external desire was never love's pinnacle. Harmony within is. Countless folks devote lifetimes to gaining others' regard. Rare are those who master self-perception, but those who achieve it navigate life uniquely. Their joy stands firm, untradeable. Their value isn't tied to conditions. Their aura conveys poise, serenity, resilience. And curiously, they're the ones everyone gravitates toward, not from pursuit of spotlight, but from radiating what so many seek. Inner balance. It's subtle, it's unforced, it's serene, yet impossible to ignore. You spot it in their words, in their refusal to defend their worth through conflict, in their ability to depart from unreciprocated ties without hardening their spirit. That's authentic power, not the forceful kind, but the tender sort that endures amid toughness. And that's the outcome when you release the compulsion to be desired. You evolve into someone sufficiently complete. You begin to value people for their true selves rather than what they offer in return. Rejection no longer feels like a verdict on your value, and affection isn't something you internalize as a personal triumph. Instead, you recognize that others' ability to cherish you reflects their own inner world far more than it ever does yours. Embracing this truth brings liberation as it frees you from gauging your self-worth through someone else's gaze. No longer do you pursue connection like a trophy to claim. You embrace existence as if belonging is woven into your very essence. From the moment you arrived, desire pulsed through creation itself. You weren't summoned by words of affirmation or deeds of merit, but by the cosmos craving your presence. Your form echoes the cosmic dust that birthed stars and vast nebulae. You weren't an error or a fluke. Rather, you represent the universe's singular voice, echoing once across eternity. True belonging isn't found in admiration, accolades, or lasting fame. It's in reclaiming your own awareness, honoring that your current existence holds profound purpose. You needn't seek that purpose in another's reflection. It beats steadily within your chest. Perhaps that's the subtle wisdom so many chase through a lifetime, unaware it's already theirs. Worthiness doesn't hinge on being desired by others. It simply requires your full, bold, unreserved presence. When you cease wondering, "Am I significant to them?" and turn inward to ask, "In what ways can I make a difference to myself and the world?" A profound transformation unfolds. The narrative evolves from mere endurance to bold invention, from seeking validation to embracing genuineness, from longing to be selected to feeling complete. Ultimately, this might be the deepest lesson love imparts, not the art of being picked, but the power to select and affirm yourself, wholly and without reservation. Music.